Welcome back to the Terrible Warriors. I am not your game master or apparently a living, breathing character anymore. Justin Ecock here playing Noirlandia. This did not go as I expected, I must say. Not even that it went off the rails. I think it ended the only way it could when I invited Shane Fitzgerald from Edmonton to come join us. Hi, Shane.
I am a slasher and I must be stopped.
And also, Shane from Toronto, you did not kill me, so I thank you for that. You've always been on my side whenever we played these games.
Well, you were the DM most of the time, so I couldn't really kill you.
No, or I was like the real Professor Oak, in which case you couldn't kill me. Or he
You
tried.
killed my Weedle, though.
Or he tried, and I power drived him into the ground. It was great.
By murdering his Weedle.
By murdering his Weedle. Did I throw Weedle? Did I kill
No,
him?
he threw Weedle, and you made him
and then
land in
he's
the
like,
acid.
He landed in acid. I'm like, can I get back? He's like, no, he's dead. I'm like
Why
no.
did I say that? I wasn't running the game.
No, that
That would have been Julian.
would have been Julian.
Was it Julian?
Yeah, Julian
I
ran the
didn't run
Pokemon
those
game.
games. I was playing the real
Curse
Professor
you,
Oak.
Julian.
No, and Ori tried to like I don't know, hail rocket Hydra thing, and so I like choke slammed him through a glass window. that taught him a lesson. Bree.
Yeah.
Hi.
Still
Hi.
here. I did scribble out your name with extreme prejudice on the
Yes, you
board.
did. You teamed to take quite pleasure in that. It
was good.
We have
I
finished.
scribbled it
We
so many
finished our
times.
story at our last episode. This is a bonus episode here at Noirlandia. It's going to be shorter than the rest. We're not going to take a full hour of your time, but we did have a real question. We had learned who killed Stephen Prince, famed author of the City of Calypso. We did learn how Stephen Prince was killed. We did learn why. For a quick recap, well, we got 3 questions. We got 3 players. Do you each want to answer? First, on the questions, Shane, while we were learning through, our City of Calypso is a city of mirrors, of vanity, of pride, of drug use, of Puritan values, and a conflict that goes with all that, with the outskirts and the shades that gave them their drugs but didn't use it themselves, lived a life of passion but didn't coexist with a city that repressed all of that. And then somewhere in the middle were the Shatters, this Skid Row area, where some of them were transitioning from one side, the core, to the other side of the shades, or backwards, or living in a weird place in the middle where they're never going to belong in either world. And then those who really succeeded, the opposite side of the Shatters in the crystal maze, the upper crust of the society, those who made it, live the ideal. They're no longer taking the focus drugs; they take the relax and happy drugs. And they that was our city. This an interesting city with interesting sides, all at conflict with each other and all somehow coexisting together and supporting each other. But then in the center of it, something that actually ended up almost taking a risk to the entire machinery that kept the city going, was the death of famed author Stephen Prince. But he was much more than an author, as we learned.
Yeah.
Shane Fitzgerald, who killed Stephen Prince?
As it turns out, he was killed by Chris Chapman, who was an industrialist from the Shade. That was revealed by Marty Silver's secretary, actually,
Yeah.
who witnessed him dragging Stephen's body into the office.
Planting the body in the office, as we ultimately learned. Chris was more than just an industrialist from the Shade. He was also part of a conspiracy in the city by people from all walks of life in the city, but mostly those connected to the Shade. They were part of an organization, a group who believed that they shouldn't have a society living through self-medication and drugs, and they had developed a new chemical that would be like an antigen or an antidote to all the drugs. It would just cancel everything out and bring everyone back to their natural sober state. And they were going to distribute this through a mutual connection. Both Stephen and Chris had. Liz Moran, a government official who lived in the Crystal Maze in the upper crust of society. Through her and her government connections, they were going to distribute this drug, and they were going to change this city and make it more like the Shades, a city embracing passion but not embracing altering themselves. And there were other people involved in this conspiracy who were sucked into it. But we learned that Chris was a mastermind, not just an industrialist. He was also at the peak of this conspiracy, and he was the driving force, and he was very passionate. He worked also with crime boss Mark Brooks from the Shades, using him as a distribution network through the Shades, who was involved with Shane's character, the old man, who also was an artisanal drug designer. You probably didn't sell a lot of the drugs; you just invented them, right? And you would sell them, but
I do small batch deliveries.
yeah, you weren't the high. You weren't playing the high stakes game that Mark Brooks was playing.
Yeah, you weren't the kingpin in any situation here. Like you were the
I was like a
Mark
progenitor
Brooks
of a
is
lot
the
of them.
McDonald's to your burger's priest.
Yeah.
Right?
I go
Like
with
you're
that.
like the indie artisanal burger joint next to his fast food joint of more drugs for more people. Right?
Bigger, juicier drugs for me.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
I'll ask you, Shane, the next question. I know Bree wants to answer it. Do you want to answer the next question?
Bree should answer it. She's the one who saw
Bree,
it.
how? You the one who ended up your character Fortune from the Shatters. You discovered Stephen Prince.
And-
You didn't
Yep.
discover. You broke into the crime
I
scene.
broke into the crime scene and contaminated it horribly
Yeah.
and wound up on the list of
Ba, ba, ba,
suspects
ba, ba.
and took something from the body.
What was the method of the murder?
In doing so, he was just stabbed so many times. Like that was
so many.
So many.
So many times, but
So
not
many
stabbed at the
stabs.
office.
No,
Stabbed somewhere else,
I'm pretty sure he was like wrapped in a plastic sheet.
and then just
And then they kind of
Blah,
like
blah, 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 blah.
tied the ends up, kind of like they were like,
like a
big
burrito.
Tootsie Roll.
yeah, it's just like a Tootsie Pop, right? And they
Yeah.
like tied the ends up to keep all the blood in, and then when they got to the office, they just basically went, "Bleh," like put it all on the ground.
Subtle.
Yep.
And Shane, we learned why he was killed.
You've done the why quite well so far.
No, I didn't, because there was a final bit there that I held off on. I explained that Chris was involved in a conspiracy, but everything was going to go according to plan. Everything was going to work.
But then Steven got a taste for the good life, and he wanted to stop it. And then Chris was like, son, you're going through with the plan. And
He wasn't just going to stop it.
he was going to expose
He was
it.
going to expose it. He was going to destroy his reputation. He was going to take down the Shades.
Yeah. So he tried to, he like threatened to go live with it. And then Chris just did the whole stabby thing.
And might I mention, it was going to make an excellent backdrop for Prince's next young adult romance novel.
What was that called?
And there
by
was
the
this
way?
love affair with this person
Well, he never
in
got
the
to write
Shatters.
it.
It actually ended up not being connected to the crime at all, and it's just this tragic story now. This man in the Shatters has
Sorry, I
lost
ruined your
his
life.
secret love, all because of a conspiracy happening on the other side of town.
And where am I
The
going to find a
Shatters
new
are all
author,
into-
guys? Come on.
And then, for God's sake, at the very end of all that, learning that why came at a cost. Because our PI, Marty, had a chance to get out of the game and leave everything alone, just let it lie in the dark. And he didn't listen to the lesson, so Mark Brooks took it upon himself to wipe out Marty, my character, Marty Silver.
beloved character.
How did
of
we
our
decide to do that?
campaign.
Was he pushed downstairs or no? Or was he just pushed off a building?
I think it was pushed on an elevator shaft that had nothing but knives at the bottom.
Knives at the bottom? I was like, why are there knives at the bottom? Okay.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
you could
maybe it
glass
was just a
shards.
really sharp, like, you know how
Yeah.
there's a spring at the bottom? Maybe it was sharp.
Like Final
Oh,
Destination.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it was very likely, as we're going to learn in the epilogue, Marty would have taken the answers and he would have put them out in the pneumatic tubes and sent them all to the press.
True.
He knew what everyone else figured out, and then he died. And he died
Yeah.
with that knowledge before anyone else could be told.
Yeah,
and
really
we're
bad
now
week.
going to tell our
a
epilogue.
really bad week.
We're now going to tell our epilogue, and our epilogue is going to work out as such. You will each take one white die for each unmarked principal box in your character sheet. You will also take another white die because we got all three questions answered. So for everyone, take a white die for answering your three
There's-
questions.
Yeah,
okay,
we're
no,
like
we're going to do it
out
one
like
at a time.
this.
Sorry,
We're
we're
gonna
going to
do
do
it
it one at a time.
Okay.
And then you're just gonna. What we'll do is we'll actually we'll
Keep track of how
we'll
many
mark
dice you
on
should
the-
have.
on your case notes. You'll just mark what your results are because you're just because we're not rolling these dice. We just need to get a number of dice. So you have so for Shane, you get actually you know what, you don't even need to mark. Just do like an empty box or a solid box, right?
Okay.
So one white die for each unmarked box in your principal. And then another white die if all three questions were answered. So I only get one white
I got
die.
one.
Yeah, not looking good for me. Take 1 black die for each black mark next to your principal,
Well, fuck.
right? And just draw
Hold
that
on,
in.
let's-
Solid box. And take another black die if the 3 districts are escalated.
Okay, we didn't do that.
Now, what you want to do is arrange these dice in an alternating pattern, starting with the white die if possible. Now, for me, I got 2 black die and 1 white die, so I'm actually going to have to go black,
Black, white,
black.
Yep.
The first one, so the first, all the dice will be fortunately, unfortunately, or in my case, unfortunately, fortunately, unfortunately. The last dice will not be about your character, it'll be about the city. We, the table, will tell the unfortunate side for your character. You will get the final say on the fortunate side of your character. So, who do we want to start with? I want to start with me. I died.
Yeah, Marty died.
Yeah.
We'll just use me as the guinea pig. So, unfortunately, you get the first say on my character for this epilogue. I'm already dead. Unfortunately, you can talk about my reputation. You can talk about the business. You can talk about maybe I got pinned for the murder. Unfortunately, the first line of this, and then I get to
Unfortunately, the initial news story came out. It was that Marty was the murderer, and he killed himself.
He had killed
out of
himself in a
shame.
fit of grief. Like, just shame and grief and why did I do this thing? Everyone is finding out. Threw himself down an elevator shaft.
Fortunately, the truth did come out. I mean, there were knives at the bottom of the elevator shaft. That's just not supposed to be there. That was against code. And a whole nother Noirlandia campaign came out about my murder. And 4 new people went out and they found 3 more answers. And fortunately, ultimately, he was exonerated. And he was proven that he did not kill Stephen Prince. He did not commit suicide. That he himself was also a murderer of this conspiracy in the town.
That would have been a good story.
That would have been a really cool sequel to
Yeah.
play. Maybe I'll do that with like 3 other players who don't know anything about this game.
Yeah, just as like 3 other players who didn't murder me.
Unfortunately, and you get to now tell something. Unfortunately, so I fortunately had my name cleared, but unfortunately something bad happened to the city,
City.
to the city at large, to the culture of the city. Unfortunately,
Unfortunately, actually, you know what? Bree.
the 3 of you get to decide what
No, unfortunately,
the repercussions of
the
my
repercussions
character's epilogue
of-
on the city at large, or maybe just on the core.
Or the fact that the news came out kind of shook the drug industry down to like it scared people. Like the market may crash, causing like economic hardships.
Life in Calypso was not as
Peaceful.
pleasant as the drug
It
companies
wasn't,
would have
it,
you
wasn't, it,
believe.
wasn't, it wasn't as bright as it used to be.
The sun set on the city.
Wah, wah.
It has waned. Is that the unfortunate part of the city?
That is
Yeah.
the unfortunate part.
Because of economic downturn.
There's my
Economic
there's my epilogue.
downturn.
Shane, Marty, hey Marty. Oh, I'm Marty. You're
Yeah.
Marcus.
Yeah.
Marcus.
You wish
Shane.
I was Marty.
Marcus Bigby. Marcus Bigby, the PI. What are your what dice you had? You had 2 white and 1 black.
Yes.
So you get to go. Fortunately, you get
Yeah.
like the opposite of me. So you get to tell the first line, and then we're gonna get to like fuck up with it, and then you get to say fortunately about the city.
Right.
So what is how do you go?
Okay, so
After all this, how did this? I just want to prompt you with a question. How did this investigation, after all this was done? I guess we haven't decided as a group if the answers ever got released, but fortunately, your character.
Okay. So fortunately, because of his role in solving the murder case, the publishers gave him a nice big reward, and he's got an improved reputation in the city for being a solid detective.
Unfortunately, the death of Marty Silver and the connection to Mark Brooks and your investigation. You have to now live with the fact that everyone does know you're from the Shades. That particular secret in your life is no longer a secret anymore. You are now a PI from the Shades who lives in the core. But the course of this investigation blew your identity public.
Because you're part of the
You
story.
became a bit of a celebrity investigator, which meant other people began to look into your background, and it was just too difficult to hide that from them. And that's what you get for throwing me down an elevator shaft.
I'm gonna let him have this.
Gonna say that. But you get to
You
see
know what? I'll
fortunately
be
about
perfectly
this.
honest. I'll be perfectly honest. If I did decide my unfortunately, I would have said that he was so guilt-ridden that his actions caused the death of Marty Silver that he started taking drugs for real.
Oh fuck! That's so much better. You want? Is that it? Is that
Go
it?
for it!
That
You
it?
like it? Take it!
That's not canon.
Dark. Hey, is this like join the normal population?
Took your no guilt pill. So, oh god. Fortunately about the city, Shane. What was a fortunate effect on this city though because of this investigation and your story?
Let me see here. Fortunately for the city,
We got it. We had a dark ending with mine, but we get to expand on that with each character.
right. Fortunately for the city, the conspiracy to spread the antigen in the pharmaceuticals, it didn't spark a panic, but it did get people talking about
Yeah.
the policies around
Yeah.
drugs.
It brought light to the shades. It pushed people like Mark Brooks into the open, and that kind of like clandestine activity is just much more difficult now. Like Liz was held responsible, and there's where this stuff was never regulated before. It was all privately run.
It forced transparency in the drug companies. Like now they have
So,
to kind of start telling you.
While people
what
in the
they're giving
city,
you.
as Shane mentioned earlier, while people in the city have waned on their appetite for drugs and are a little bit more hesitant to use it, they are safer
yes
than they ever were, and there's more regulation and more transparency on that. So drug use has gone down, but crises have also gone down, and there's more. There's for those that have remained in the core and in the maze. It's life is. There's more confidence about the oversight that goes around things. That people like Mark Brooks aren't going to be able to continue poisoning the water well.
precisely.
Oh man, it's like Marty's death was super important.
I know, right?
Oh,
Of course.
I'm not trying to do that at all. So
You see, you
in
gotta play the long game with me. You gotta play the long game.
So
It sucks in the beginning, but there's purpose to it all.
the old man.
Hello.
What were your dice? What did they look like?
All white.
Well, is there no black?
I never once violated my
He
principles.
didn't, and there were no.
So you get to-
just get you go.
Yes, so
You
go.
go.
So you
Narrative.
get to tell
Two.
two fortunately stories about your character, and then a fortunate for the whole city.
So I
Look
found
at you all sunshine and
I
paydays.
found the pigeons. I now have a pigeon friend.
Real life.
Yeah,
pigeon.
I got a real life pigeon friend now.
Oh my god.
What's his name?
His name is Pigeon. I wasn't that inventive,
Oh, okay.
but I got a pigeon named Pigeon. He's
That's
really
okay.
cool. Also, due to the fact that Chris Chapman is it Chris Chapman?
His
Here's the mur-
pigeon's
here's
name
the
is
murderer.
Jesse.
Yeah. With that, the drug changes the city. The old man's personal business as an artisanal, high-quality drug maker has gone through the roof.
With Mark Brooks exposed and his business gone.
It's all profit for him, and he kind of embellishes the fact that he was involved in helping to solve it. And then for the city, actually for the Shade, business is booming there. For an area that has low drug use, but also produces most of the high-quality drugs, is probably starting to become a bit more, well-established and economically sound.
Yeah, they're like Silicon Valley for
Yeah,
designer drugs.
We're just basically propping up, like as the city's kind of like small, like.
Well,
like,
and as people start using drugs a little less, this becomes a place that they actually, would go to instead of a place that you wouldn't be caught dead in.
yeah,
right?
so more people coming in. Also, our imports go
Increased
increasing going
tourism.
out.
Yeah.
Go us.
What were your dice, Bree?
So I have an unfortunately, fortunately, unfortunately. Because I have
So-
two black and white.
So unfortunately for your character, team, what unfortunately about fortune?
Nom, nom, nom. I actually didn't do this on purpose.
She was still a lead
But I'd
in
like
the
to take-
investigation. She was still contaminated and pointed at a scene of the crime.
And they had to publish all her fan fiction as public evidence.
Yeah, well, it all ended up in court.
domain.
But in the course of that trial, it meant that Chris Chapman it was inadmissible. There was too much contamination from the thing that it ended up being thrown out. and he's free.
And people read all my fan fiction.
And they read all your
All of
fan
it.
fiction
In court.
in court on the
line
record.
by line.
It's on like archive.org now.
This is the worst ever, guys.
And it was read by someone who does not know the background.
However, but Bree,
But
fortunately,
fortunately,
you got to turn that around in your favor.
fortunately, because her writing did get read by people in what?
You're the new Twilight.
Because her writing did get read. I mean, she did get picked up by an admittedly small-time publisher,
There
but
is a-
she's on her
There
way
is a power
up.
vacuum with the death of Stephen Prince. They are looking
Absolutely.
for a new...
Like she didn't just step into his shoes by no means. Like this is not how the world works. But she has absolutely been signed with a company and she's beginning to make her way up there in the highly competitive world of young adult romance.
And sure, you may have been complicit in the
Yeah, but you know
Demolishing
how
like
they
the
say
gem.
that all publicity is good publicity.
yeah. You don't really seem to mind when you walk into your new glass apartment in the core. Yeah. And your new book deal. Ready to go. And you're like, okay, so he's still out there on the streets, but like, whatever.
You're doing pretty good.
I'm doing okay. I
infamy.
did finally get out of the Shatter,
Yeah.
which is kind of what I was going for.
Unfortunately for the city.
They have to read her fan fiction.
Unfortunately for the city, Fortune's glimmer fiction has now become like the primary cultural influence on a new generation of Calypsians.
I'm sorry.
And there has
so
been an
sorry.
eclipse in Calypso of like cultural dignity and Puritan behaviors.
Replace drug use with frickin' Twilight soccer moms.
I'm sorry. Didn't we say this was 50 Shatters of Grey?
This is
Isn't that
really
what we're talking?
this is the darkest timeline.
This is the darkest timeline, and it was brought about by my
How long are
fan
you holding
fiction.
on to that one?
Oh.
So
He was literally planning this
so
from
really,
the start.
Chris Chapman got away,
Yes,
Yeah.
and you're dead.
and I'm dead,
Yeah.
and you're famous.
I'm famous.
I got a
This is
pigeon.
great.
You got a pigeon and a massive
drug empire.
empire.
Yeah, I'm rich.
And like whatever, you just went on to be like a PI, but
I'm a junkie now.
you're a PI to the stars.
Oh, he's a junkie now, though.
yeah.
That's the dark part.
Yeah, but you get high to her fiction.
I was always a junkie, so
You get high to her fiction though.
Oh, bullshit.
No, it's the
no,
world now.
it's canon now.
This
you love
headcanon is
you
now
love
actual
50
canon.
Shatters of
You can
Grey.
actually
don't
take
even.
a pill where you enjoy glimmer fiction. I
Yeah.
love
It makes
glimmer
it
fiction.
makes it more enjoyable.
All right, well that was don't do drugs, kids. For Terrible Warriors, that was Noirlandia. We are going to record a debrief now, but we're going to hit stop on this recording. If you want to hear the debrief on how we thought about this game and what we thought about the mechanics, it was a very different game from what we're used to playing, but you voted for it, you can head over to our Patreon page. That will be available right now on our Patreon page, patreon.com/terriblewarriors. If you are not a supporter yet and you want to become a supporter, becoming a supporter will give you access to every debrief we've ever recorded since joining Patreon and to all of the complete campaigns we've released since joining Patreon. I mean, you can listen to all the campaigns for free on our website, but what I offer for our Patreon supporters is like an easy single file that removes all the intros and extras, and it's just the game edited as a single like 5-hour block. I don't know, it's easier for your archives, right? So they're all available as a private playlist for you right now if you head over to the Patreon page. And then you'll hear us continue this talk. The epilogue is over. The game has ended. But we're going to now exit character mode and just talk about the game as players and what we liked and what we didn't like about it. And they're just going to yell at me for hijacking the game and being a quarterback. 'Cause I don't like to share. And I'm just going to yell at them for not having a big enough imagination. I wanted a City of Ferrets. I thought you would all be on board with that. But no, apparently we had to do drugs and glass. So
So join us in the debrief for that.
until we meet again, dear listeners, I have not been your GM, the dearly departed Justin Ecock. Surrounded here from the table, here in Toronto, joining us again, we've had...
Bree making terrible life choices, but now I'm famous. Poison.
And
Shane, who's the old man who now has a pet pigeon.
he is the one who knocks. And...
Yes.
And from Edmonton, we'll be saying goodbye to you, but we'll hear you again on the Edmonton shows back on Thursday.
That's Justin saying he's never having you back because you murdered him.
You're free to come back to the games, but I'm not making you breakfast.
Fair enough. Shane Fitzgerald, Circuit 42, and the Evanston crew, and it was great being here. And maybe someday I'll find a way to get through something without killing somebody off.
It's not that you don't. You tend to kill things that are so dear to me.
I was fine with it.